Jai Guru and Pranam. My name is Amit Chatterjee, and I'm speaking to you from Seattle this morning. It is the start of daylight savings time in North America, and perhaps for several of you, it's very early in the morning, but I'm glad you're here. I am happy to be here with you. May this daylight savings period be an auspicious one for all of us. We will start with a quick prayer. So let us close our eyes for a moment. Thinking deeply of God, thinking and bowing to my Param Gurudev, Paramahamsa Hariharanandaji, to my Gurudev, Paramahamsa Prajnananandaji, and to the lineage of Kriya Yoga masters, and praying on behalf of all of us. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvina Badhitamastu, Ma Vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May the Lord protect us all. May He allow us to enjoy together, to exert together. May our discussions be sincere and faithful. May there not be any discord amongst us. May there be peace. Om. Amen. Good morning again. How to surrender to God. A yogi's way is a dynamic surrender. This is the topic for the talk today. And I'll start with sharing with you an incident from the life of Baba Paramahamsa Hariharanandaji. This was an event from the 1970s. Hariharanandaji was away from Puri for a year, and he was staying in Kolkata in a rented ashram. And there was one brahmachari with him to cook for him, to care for him, and to serve him. And one day, a few guests had come to the ashram. So the brahmachari cooked lunch for all of them. And then when it was time, they all sat down for lunch. And as it is customary, they offered the food to God, they offered a prayer, and they had the meal together. And after some time, the guests left. Now, the brahmachari is telling Hariharananda Baba and asking him, Baba, I cooked for the guests, but I'm not sure whether everything was okay. Was the salt okay? Did the food taste good? This was a typical nervousness of the brahmachari. But today, Param Gurudev decided to handle it in a different way. Param Gurudev looked at him and said, look, don't say this. Why do you keep saying you have cooked, you have cooked? Can a dead body cook? Did you not pray to God before starting the cooking? Did you not offer the food to God before serving? If so, why this nervousness? Why this feeling if this was okay or you could have done this or that? If you think of this incident, this happens in our lives, in our own lives, quite often. In the spiritual path, we are often praying to God, to gurus, for any endeavor we engage in. But nonetheless, whether it be a test in a school or studies or a project at work or a project for the society, once we complete those, we are always beset with self-doubt. Was it okay? Could I have done that better? Did I forget something? Hariharananda Baba's teaching that day was so wonderful. He essentially said, it is the power of divinity which works within us. So think of God. Offer your work to God. Do your best effort and then leave the rest to Him. If you have prayed and offered the work to God, it becomes prasad, a consecrated offering. Then you accept the results of the work as a prasad. It is the will of God. And then why unnecessarily worry about things? One who loves God, who surrenders to God, who serves God, should that person really have any fear, doubt, or worries? Today we will explore this topic of surrender to God a little bit more. Now, this is a vast topic, as you may realize. This is the core theme of the bhakti movement, the path of love, the path of devotion. And I certainly am not speaking to you as one who has figured all of this out and has all the answers. Certainly not. I am just exploring what it means to surrender to God. And time is short this morning as well. So what I'll do is I'll just share with you with some teachings that I have learned from my Gurudev that have resonated with me, and I'll try to weave them together, and I hope it'll be valuable to you. So first of all, as you listen to this talk, there might be many or several on this call who might not agree with the concept of surrender at all, who might think that surrender is something weak and perhaps not necessary. And your perspective is well-founded. My Gurudev also says that surrender does not come spontaneously at the beginning, and it need not also. Artificial surrender actually does more harm than good. It may lead us to become lazy. And a yogi's life, a yogi's path is not a lazy one. God has given us tremendous endeavor, tremendous abilities. We are endowed with discrimination, self-will, effort, determination. We need to use all of that. So at the beginning, certainly and always, there needs to be our best effort. We need to put in our best. And surrender, if it at all comes, need to come from the heart. So both best effort and surrender are really what is implied in this path. I'll share with you a beautiful story from the Bhagavatam. This is the episode known as the episode of Gajendra Moksha. Gajendra is the name of a king of elephants, and moksha, of course, is liberation. So this story is about the liberation of the king of elephants. So a long time ago, in a land, there lived a powerful king of the elephants. His name was Gajendra. He was the king of all the herds of elephants in that land. And one day, Gajendra goes to a lake to drink water. And suddenly, a huge crocodile living in that lake springs at him and catches hold of his leg. Gajendra struggles mightily, trying to free himself from the grip of the crocodile. But that crocodile is a huge beast as well. And there ensues a big struggle between them. All the family members and other herd members also gather around Gajendra, trying to help him. But it is all seemingly in vain. Gajendra is trumpeting in pain and still trying hard to get himself released. But neither is he being successful, nor is the crocodile winning. And this struggle continues for a long time. And even the family members and friends realize that this is all in vain. And even they leave Gajendra. And Gajendra is still trying. And finally, at the end, when he is bereft of any more self-effort, nothing is left in him, he decides to surrender to Lord. Gajendra picks up a lotus from the lake and thinking of God, offers it to Lord Vishnu. saying, "Oh Lord, my life is like this lotus. If you want to protect it, please do protect me." And it goes that Lord Vishnu, satisfied with his effort as well as surrender, saves him that day. So if you notice in this story, two things are important: the struggle and the surrender. Both of them are implied in this path. So certainly at the beginning and always, we need to start with our best effort. And surrender, if it happens, the thought of surrender, if it comes, it will come with time, and it needs to come from the heart. As we grow in life with more experiences, as we grow more in the spiritual path, two things begin to happen. One is we realize that we really are helpless individuals, full of ego and pride. We think we do everything, but so many things in this world are beyond our control. COVID happens, a war happens, or there's death in the family. And suddenly we realize that all our carefully arranged plans go haywire. We truly are quite helpless in this drama of life. And the second thing is, with time, we learn more about God. We try to understand more what this concept is. What is this huge intelligence that seems to weave all of us together in this world? We see more of it playing out in our life, and then we try to explore surrender. But the question still remains, how does one surrender to God? Because in the beginning of spiritual life, the concept of God itself is vague. We can't really say we know what God is unless we are self-realized. And if that is so, how can we even surrender to God? Yogis say that the first step in surrender to God is to surrender to a guru, to a surrender to the guru's teachings. Many of us, most of us in this talk, are so fortunate to have a living God-realized master as our guru, to have a lineage, unbroken lineage of Kriya Yoga masters as our guru. And what is the guru doing day and night? He's just teaching us how to surrender to God. Do we realize that? Those amongst us who are trying to follow the teachings of the guru sincerely in life are so fortunate indeed. For the rest of us, we jostle with each other to bow to the guru. We try to spend time with the guru. But do we think of the teachings that he has left for us? When will the day come when we too become living examples of his teachings? It has now been 2 years that our Guruji, Gurudev Paramahamsa, Prajnananandaji, has been in silence, praying for all of us. And all of us are yearning to hear his sweet and divine words again. But do we think of the volumes that he has already told us that we are not following? Time is running by. Or are we too settling for lifetimes of struggle, meandering along, when the opportunity is there right now, right here, to transform our lives by following his teachings? So the first thing is to know, what does it mean to surrender to the guru? And really this means two things. In the olden times, the disciples would actually live with the guru, and they would see the guru in action every day. So the first thing in surrendering to the guru is to just learn, to just see how he is surrendering to the guru, how he accepts God in his life, how he rests in God. And those examples themselves are teachings for us. Now, in modern times, we do not have the opportunity of living with our Guru. But nonetheless, there are so many examples that we can still learn from, that we see or read about or we hear about the Guru. I'll narrate to you an incident that many of you will remember. This was from November of 2020. This was in the middle of COVID times. Guruji had visited the USA, and in November, he was returning back to India. His flight was from Houston to India via Newark, New Jersey. Gurudev left Houston, all was good. He reached Newark and even boarded the flight for India. But unfortunately, there was some technical difficulty in the plane, and that flight got canceled that night. This was late in the night, after midnight. Guruji was actually in silence, not speaking. You can imagine the scene at the otherwise nearly empty airport. Irritated passengers, irate passengers swarming the airline's counters, trying to figure out what to do. And Guruji, he doesn't have a cell phone, his computer is not working, and he's not even speaking. And Guruji just stands there, aside from the swarming crowd, with a serene smile on his face, thinking, all of this is God's work. He will take care of everything. And really, that is what happens that day. Some total strangers, noticing Guruji standing there, come forward to help him. They give him a ride to the hotel that they would have to stay that night. A disciple wakes up in the middle of the night in Houston and realized that there was trouble with the flight. Another disciple in New Jersey is contacted, and so on. And total strangers and disciples come together to take care of Guruji that night. And all the while, Guruji is not speaking, not worrying, not trying to be concerned about anything. All worked out well in the end. He boarded the same flight the following evening and reached India safely. But this, to me, is a great example of surrender to Guru. I think of what I would have done if I was in that situation. Those thoughts are not good. I'll not share with you. So this is an example of surrender to the Guru. And the Guru, in an effort to teach us, he actually talked about this episode in a mail to the rest of the Kriyavans. And I'll quote from his mail. Guruji says, in this beautiful creation, God is everything. We forget God. We lack trust in God. We trust machines and technology, and often we become irritated with others and even with God. God is the beauty in all, the love in all, and the kindness and compassion in all. Such a beautiful teaching. So when you're with the Guru, the first avenue to learn about surrender to God, to surrender to Guru, is to learn from his or her own examples. Guruji's teachings from this incident reminds me of another very poignant incident from the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was a 15th century saint who popularized the bhakti movement and made it accessible to all people in the society, people of all strata. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a family life, and later in his life, he decided to leave his family life. Before leaving, he told his mother that he was leaving. He told his wife that he was leaving. Widow, mother, and wife, he told them he was leaving. And that day, the mother, in total helplessness, in total frustration, tells him, "You're leaving. Okay, then give me a bottle of poison and then leave. You have me staying with you. You have your young wife staying with you. and you're leaving us. Maybe your wife will go back to her parents, but what will I do in this age? Such a emotional appeal from the mother. And Lord Chaitanya, who is an avatar, incarnation of God, intoxicated in the love for God, has a very simple retort that day. He tells his mother that, "Mother, do you know, one name of God is Vishambhar. Vishambhar means one who is feeding everyone in this society, in this universe. God is literally maintaining, feeding, taking care of everyone in the world. Do you think only I can take care of you? If I am not here, do you think God will not take care of you?" Such a beautiful teaching. I think this teaching will bring such strength and inspiration to us when we find ourselves to be alone, when we feel let down by those who we count on. So yes, staying with the Guru gives us the opportunity to learn how he is surrendering to God. And that is the best way to learn to surrender to God. And then the second way to learn from the Guru about surrendering to God is to learn from his teachings. Guruji tells us that a yogi surrenders to God in a very special way. It is the practice of offering every breath to God. That is the special way. And it is a dynamic surrender. A yogi, of course, puts in his best effort in every endeavor. But instead of just completing the work and then thinking of God and saying, "Oh God, you are everything, I offer this to you," your yogi thinks of God in every breath. At the beginning of the work, during the work, after the work, constantly watching the breath and thinking, whose breath is this anyway? Maybe the next breath will be the last one. Is this really my breath? Who's breathing? And the yogi realizes it is God who is breathing in us. It is everything is his life. And to do the work, remembering this in every breath. And if you think of this, if we are able to surrender every breath to God, we really are surrendering everything to God. Without breath, there is no life. Without breath, there is no family. Without breath, there is no job. Without breath, there is no accomplishments, no position in the society. So really, breath is our everything. And if we can offer breath to God, we do truly end up offering our everything to God. And so in every breath, to be connected to the divine, in every breath, to surrender to the divine. Guruji says, this is total surrender. And Guruji says, when you surrender totally, then you get rid of your ignorance totally. There is total manifestation of knowledge. There is total manifestation of love. So when surrender is complete, love is complete, knowledge is complete, and we truly understand God. So this is the second way we learn from surrendering to the Guru. First, learning about how he lives his life surrendering to God. And second, in trying to sincerely understand, contemplate, and follow his teachings. Now you may wonder, what really is the need for surrender again? What really happens if we are able to surrender completely? If we are able to surrender completely, then life becomes a total and effortless flow. we experience what Lord Jesus said. It is your will, my Father, that thy will be done, not my will. Everything is God's will. It is not our will. Life becomes a flow. Life becomes effortless. Every action flows without attachment, without expectation. Just as normally, as effortlessly as our breath flows day and night, without effort, without any motivation. Life truly becomes an effortless flow, and we become a witness to the divine taking care of us in every moment, in every breath. This is what happens. And just as everything else, this surrender is actually something to be practiced. We need to learn to observe every breath. We need to practice offering every breath to God. And if you think, this is exactly what Kriya Yoga is. Kriya Yoga teaches us that it is the power of divinity within us which is making us do any work in life. So to remember that divinity in every work, to be united with that divinity in every moment, in every breath, is what Kriya Yoga is. So Kriya Yoga itself is this path to total surrender. And we need to practice it. Initially, perhaps, we try to surrender to God on simple endeavors. And then we start observing how even the little things become effortless. There's less commotion. There is less emotion. How they become effortless flow, and we are able to witness them. And then perhaps with time, with more practice, we try to do the same with more critical situations in life. And truly, this world is God's. And even then, with practice, we will find that even those critical situations flow by and we are still safe because there is God taking care of us. I will end this talk sharing another story which touches my heart deeply. It is a story of how God, when we surrender to God, really carries all our load, really takes care of all our work, all our responsibilities in life. And how beautiful it is when He makes us realize that this is how it works. This is again a true life incident, which I have heard from my Gurudev Paramahamsa Prajnananandaji. This is about a holy man who lived in Puri, not far from our main ashram in Orissa. This was a very poor Brahmin, very devoted man. He really was extremely poor, but he had no worries. Just as a Brahmin is supposed to do, he would spend most of his day in studying scriptures, and then he would beg for his food, as Brahmins are allowed to do. So he would study, he would beg and live a day-to-day life, and all was good. And he was a family man. He had a family to support, a wife with him as well. One day, this Brahmin was studying the Gita, and he comes across a particular verse of the Gita. And this is verse 22 from chapter 9 of the Gita. And the last part of the verse has this typical phrase. It says, Yogacharya bahami aham. Yogacharya bahami aham. Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna that, oh Arjuna, those who surrender to me completely from their heart, I carry their load for them. Bahami aham, I carry their load. This Brahmin, as he is reading this segment, he suddenly has a doubt. He thinks, how can the Lord carry our load? That is so demeaning. The Lord must not carry our load. There surely is something wrong with this verse. And he thinks and he contemplates. And then he comes up with the idea. He scratches out the word Bahami in his Gita with a pen and writes next to it, Dadami. Dadami means to give. Bahami means to carry. And now the Brahmin is satisfied that this is what Lord Krishna must have meant. That those who surrender to me completely, I give them what they need. He was satisfied that the Lord would give rather than the Lord having to carry, which again was so demeaning to him. Having finished his study, the Brahmin then has to go out and beg. It has already been 2-3 days that he has gone out to beg, and there has not been any food. So the Brahmin goes out to beg again. And then while the Brahmin is out, it usually takes him a few hours for him to come back. There's a knock on the door of his home. The wife opens the door and finds a good-looking, chubby young boy standing there. And this boy has a bamboo staff on his shoulders. And using that staff as a lever, he's carrying 2 heavy loads, 2 baskets on 2 sides. And those baskets are loaded with packets and stuff and vegetables and stuff like that. The wife is surprised and says, "Who are you? What have you brought?" The young boy looks at her and says, "I have brought food." And wife's puzzled, looking quizzically at him. The boy says, "Your husband has sent all this food." The wife says, "My husband has sent this food? Okay, come inside." The boy says, "Look, I have a lot of work to do. I cannot spend time here. Let's just unload the packets right here near the doorstep." So the wife and the boy, they unload the packets that he had brought, keeps them inside the home. And the boy says, "I have to leave now, lots of work." And saying this, the boy turns around and he's leaving. And the wife looks at him and suddenly says, "Hey, stop. The wife notices that on the back of the boy, there is a vivid, almost raw wound, a scratch, a big scratch on his back. The boy stops. The wife says, "What is this on your back? You've hurt yourself. Who has done this to you?" The boy says, "Your husband has done this to me." "My husband has done this to you? He's a very humble man. He's not cruel. But please come inside. I want to apply something to that wound." The boy says, "No matter, not needed. I have so much to do. I am leaving." The boy turns around and leaves. Now, an hour or so later, the husband is returning. Shoulders down, exhausted. He comes in and tells the wife, "It is bad luck again today. Again, there is no food." The wife is now looking at the husband and saying, "There's no food? Are you in good mind or not?" He says, "Why?" "Well, you just sent all of this food with this boy." The husband is puzzled and says, "Who brought the food? Who was this boy?" The wife tries to describe who the boy is, and the husband is continuing to inquire and to find out who this was. And then eventually he feels it was none other than God. Who would have come? Who would have known? That there was no food that day. And the husband says, that wound that you saw, that is also my stupidity. He says, this morning, when I was studying the Gita, I cut across this word, Bahami. And that scratch was a scratch on the back of the Lord. God was teaching me that indeed He carries our load. Such a beautiful story. If you think of this world, who is really maintaining us all in this world? Who's really taking care of us? We think that we are doing everything. Not a blade moves without His blessing. And all this despair, all this negativity, all this struggle in the world, it is because of our stupidity. We, with our ego, with our ignorance, mess up God's plan. So this is really the story of surrender to God. I'll try to recap what we talked about today. First of all, surrender to God need not come from the beginning. Let there be effort first. Let there always be effort. That is what free will is for. Next, to surrender to God, we need to surrender to the Guru, which means to first learn to see how the Guru is living his life and to learn from that. And our Guruji lives every moment for God. And then to surrender to God is to learn from His teachings. Our Guru says, a yogi surrenders in a dynamic way. Every breath is surrendered to God. And finally, as we practice this, we will learn, we will also see how life becomes effortless. This world is God's. He is taking care of us. I pray that we are all able to practice this and realize that divinity which is at play. I thank you for listening. If you believe surrender is still not your way, no worries. God has given us self-effort. We are His greatest creation. Do effort, do good, be good. May God's blessing be with you. And if you are trying to surrender to God, as I am trying, then I hope this talk was useful to you. You can explore more, and maybe you leave some questions and comments behind for discussions in the future. I humbly pray to God, to gurus, to take care of all of us. Thank you for listening. We still have some time left. We will practice a little bit of meditation. Wherever you are, be comfortable. Sit with your eyes closed. But keep your spine straight. Bring the attention to the middle of the eyebrows. This is the Agnya Chakra, the soul center. This is the door to the divinity within. Just rest comfortably and bring your attention to the breath. No need to alter the breathing, but just observe how effortlessly the breath flows. Every inhalation, every exhalation. The breath can stop in any moment. So be grateful that the breath is still there. God is giving us opportunities still. When will we realize His hidden presence in our life? Think of the breath. Watching every inhalation, every exhalation. Breath is our life itself. Breath is our strength. Breath is nurturing us day and night. Learn to love the breath. This is the greatest love in our lives. Observing every breath. Why worry needlessly? At least for the next 10-15 minutes. To leave all worry, all concerns aside. To try to perceive how through the breath God is taking care of us. Every breath, conscious breathing, not missing any breath. Notice the calmness within. Silence, calmness, the breath flowing without any motivation other than to remind us of God. Now take a slow, long, and deep breath, filling your lungs with air. Hold the breath for a moment and gently bend forward wherever you are. And exhale. Back to normal breathing again. Just bending your head forward a little, just as much as is comfortable. Stay there for a few moments. Head down, still watching the breath. Every inhalation, every exhalation. The act of bowing brings humility to our lives. We, of course, are God's greatest creation. We, of course, can do so many things. But there still is time. There are times when we feel helpless. We are bowing to divinity to make us see the truth in this creation, to help us in those moments when we are so vulnerable. Just praying to God. Just praying to God in whatever form or way you're comfortable. Shokoli tomari ichha. ইচ্ছাময়ী তারা তুমি, তোমার কর্ম তুমি করো মা, লোকে বলে করি আমি. O Divine Mother, everything in this world is your wish. You are the one who's maintaining this world. You are doing everything through our bodies, through our minds. Yet, we constantly claim it is us who's doing. Oh, Mother, let us witness, allow us to witness how you are taking care of us, of everything, effortlessly. Maybe you're feeling some heaviness at the top of the head. That is the blessing of the Divine Mother. Be grateful to her in every breath. Take another deep, long inhalation. Hold the breath and sit back straight again. Spine straight and exhale. Normal, conscious breathing. Now we will practice a simple pranayama to expand the breath. To take a few deep, long inhalations and exhalations. Conscious breathing, with every inhalation completely filling the lungs, with every exhalation completely exhaling the lungs. Take a deep, long inhalation. Exhale slow, long, and deep. Inhale deep. Exhale deep. Inhale. Feel the breath melt away all worries. Exhale. Feel love filling your entire being. Inhale. Peace. Exhale. Love. Inhale. Peace. Exhale. Love. Inhale. All negativity, anger, jealousy melting away. Exhale. A gentle smile on the face. We are resting in God. Inhale deeply. Exhale. Inhale Exhale. Peace. Normal breathing again. Bring back the attention to the middle of the eyebrows. Go deep inside the head, cave of the cranium. Feel the calmness within. Feel the silence within. Sound of silence. Whisper of the divine. Notice how feeble the breath is now. Notice less thoughts in the mind. Rest in that silence for a bit. Silent meditation. Try. Bring the attention back to the breath. Back to breath consciousness, body consciousness. Feel the peace, calmness within. The calmness you feel is your natural state, is the result of your meditation, grace of God, gurus. The divine is always taking care of us. We all are divine, but our ego, our ignorance comes in the way. May the love for God fill every heart. May love for God bring tears of joy to every eye. Let us love ourselves. Let us love all we interact with. Let us love God. We'll end with a prayer for the well-being of everyone. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Badhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. May God allow us all to enjoy together. Let all lead a happy life. Let all have auspiciousness in their daily life. Let there not be any misery. Praying to God and Gurus to bless us all. I pray to the living presence of God in all of you. Om. Amen. Thank you very much. God bless us all.